What is up, everybody? It is a great time to be alive in the AI space and the agentic engineering space. In light of the recent acquisition of Cursor by SpaceXAI, I created this full course for anyone who wants to master Cursor. So Elon Musk's company, SpaceXAI, recently bought Cursor for $60 billion. And this begs a lot of questions, like what's so special about Cursor? Why are so many people using Cursor? How can you go from a complete beginner to an advanced Cursor user? How can you build extremely useful software and applications using Cursor even as a complete beginner? How can you make money with Cursor? How can you use the top Anthropic and OpenAI models in Cursor? We're going to be answering all of those questions in this course, and I'm going to take you from a complete beginner to an advanced Cursor user who's capable of building any software that you want to. By the end of this course, you'll have built multiple applications with me, and you'll know everything there is to know about Cursor and building software with Cursor. So let's get started. All right, so prior to the agentic era, if you wanted to build software, you would have to use code editors like PyCharm, VS Code, Sublime Text, and Brackets. And in these code editors, you would have to manually write code using languages like Python, JavaScript, C++, and C#. And this was mainly done by developers. But now we have an AI code editor called Cursor, in which anyone, whether you're an entrepreneur, a student, all you have to do is just instruct the AI, and the AI builds software for you. So it reduces the barrier to entry to developing software, and now anyone can build software. So Cursor was started by 4 MIT students, Michael, Aman, Swale, and Arvid, and they're all very brilliant people. I was watching their podcast with Lex Friedman, and they talk about their technical backgrounds in physics, mathematics, and computer science, which means they were the very people who used code editors like PyCharm, VS Code, and these other code editors. They also used another code editor called Vim. And while using code editors like Vim and VS Code, along with an AI tool that was relatively new at the time called GitHub Copilot, they had an idea. Why don't we build a code editor like VS Code, but AI native, which means that AI is built into the platform? And so they created Cursor. And as these AI models from Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google kept getting better and better, Cursor kept becoming more and more useful to anyone who used it. And now we've reached a state where Cursor allows you to build absolutely anything that you want to. Any software that you can imagine, whether that's websites, mobile apps, applications, anything that you want to build, Cursor is now capable of building. Now, before getting started with Cursor, let's talk about the pricing. If you want to get started with Cursor completely for free, you can do so in the hobby plan. So in the hobby plan, you don't have to pay anything, and you can use Cursor completely for free. But it has a lot of limitations, and if you're considering using Cursor seriously for developing software, I'd recommend one of the paid plans. Now, I started off with the Pro plan, and that's the plan I'm going to be using for this course. So that just goes to show you how efficient Cursor is. This course is multiple hours long, and it's built on 1 month's Pro plan. So you get a lot of usage in Pro, but if you want to try out Pro Plus or Ultra, you can do that as well if you're an individual. Now, if you're looking to use Cursor for your business, you can go with the Teams plan, which is $40 per user per month. And if you're a very large business or enterprise, then you can have a custom solution from Cursor. We're not going to get into that. So I'd recommend getting started with one of the paid plans if you really want to take this seriously. And the amount of ROI, return on investment, that you're going to get from Cursor completely outweighs. To install Cursor, all you have to do is head over to cursor.com. And on this link, you're going to see this download button in the top right corner. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be analyzing this Cursor interface very deeply. And the reason for that is that we're taking from a learning approach that we learned back in grade school when we started reading books. When we would start reading a book, our teachers would tell us to first analyze the cover very deeply and look at the illustrations on the cover, because that would give us an intuitive understanding of what lies ahead. So we're going to take that same learning philosophy and we're going to apply it to Cursor. We're going to understand everything we see. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is this model right over here, Cursor Grok 4.5. And this is the model that Cursor and SpaceXAI have teamed up to build. So this model right over here, if I hover over this in my model selector, we can see that it's Cursor and SpaceXAI's newest model built for complex, long-running agentic coding tasks. And agentic coding is exactly what we're going to be doing throughout this course. So that's that. Now, we also have a variety of different models over here. So Composer is Cursor's own in-house series of models. So these are the models that Cursor builds on their own. Now, we have Opus 4.8 from Anthropic, GPT-5.6 from OpenAI, and GLM 5.2, which is an open source Chinese model. Now, let's say I want to add other models like Fable 5 or maybe some Google models. I can just click on Add Models right over here, and I can click on View All Models, and there's so many different AI models I can select from. So if I want to select Fable 5, I can just select that, and now Fable 5 is going to show up in my model selector. If I want to add a model from Google like Gemini 3.1 Pro, I can just select that, and now when I head back over to my home interface and I click on my model selector, I'll be able to see Fable 5 and Gemini 3.1 Pro as well. Now, we also have a lot of other really amazing features in Cursor that I'm going to make very simple for you throughout this course. So if I click on this plus icon right over here, you're going to see that we have different modes. So there's a plan mode, there's a debug mode, there's a multitasking mode, and there's an ask mode. And we're going to explore those in just a second. But we also have skills and MCP servers, which are terms you might have heard if you're active in the AI space or agentic coding space. And we're going to cover those as well. So what exactly is plan mode? Well, the name is pretty self-explanatory. The plan mode generates a robust implementation plan prior to writing code. So before you start building, you can actually have the AI generate a plan for you before you start. Now there's also a debug mode. So while you're building your application, if you face any errors or bugs or problems or issues, then debug mode goes into that very deeply and it solves the problem for you without you having to do anything. There's also a multitask mode, which allows you to use multiple sub-agents to parallelize requests instead of adding them to a queue. So instead of having agents go one after another, you can have agents run in parallel. So multiple agents working on different tasks at the same time, which is very, very cool. And then we have an ask mode. So if you're not too technical or you don't understand what's happening, you can at any time just ask the AI any question that you want. So it explores the codebase and answers questions without making any edits. Let's start building our first application, and before we do that, we just need to understand what this prompt box is. So you don't need to be intimidated at all by this placeholder text right over here. This is the exact same prompt box as the ones you would use when you're using ChatGPT on a daily basis or in Claude. So here I'm in Claude Code, and this prompt box is exactly the same as this prompt box. They both do the same thing, which is just allow you to communicate with the AI so that the AI can do your work. Now, if I head over to chat in Claude, again, this prompt box, which is similar to the one that you'd see in ChatGPT or other tools like Lovable and Replit, this is the exact same prompt box right over here. So there's nothing new about this. This is just a normal prompt box where we give instructions to the AI model. All right, so we're going to be building multiple applications throughout this course that are going to increase in complexity as we move forward. But for now, we're going to be building a simple application that provides value to students. So we're going to be building an app for students who are targeting universities in Boston, Massachusetts. And the objectives of this application are that it should display the best colleges in the city of Boston. It should rank those colleges based on alumni success rates and the successful startups that have come out of the college. And it should help students across the United States look for colleges. So these are the objectives we're going to try and fulfill with this application. We're just going to write this. We're going to turn this into a prompt. We're going to put that into Cursor. We're going to allow Grok 4.5 to build it. And let's see the result that we get. So in order to convert our requirements into a prompt, we're going to use an AI tool like ChatGPT. Now, I have a specific section on prompt engineering and writing the best prompts later on in this course. But for now, for a simple application, we're going to use a very simple method. So I've taken a screenshot of this right over here, and I've pasted that screenshot into ChatGPT right over here. And now we're going to tell ChatGPT to generate a prompt for us based on that image. So based on the attached image, please generate a prompt for me that I can give an AI agent for building the mentioned application. All right, and I'm going to hit enter. And we're going to allow ChatGPT to give us the prompt. So build a college discovery platform for the United States. This is a very long prompt, and I don't want this to be so long because this is something that is going to increase the amount of input tokens. So something about your cost and cost management and usage management is that you don't want to waste your input tokens or your output tokens. So I'm going to tell it to make the prompt much shorter. Just a simple, short paragraph. That's it. All right, so you can iterate on your prompts, and this is why I really recommend using tools like ChatGPT or Claude for writing prompts when you're using Cursor. It gives you a very effective way of iterating. So build a modern, responsive web application that helps students discover and compare universities, starting with colleges in Boston, Massachusetts. The app should showcase each university with information such as rankings, notable alumni, startup founders, academics, admissions, tuition, campus life, and career outcomes. So this is exactly what we mentioned right over here. and it's taken that and put it into a prompt. So now I'm going to copy this prompt. I'm going to head over to Cursor, and we're going to paste this prompt into Cursor. And now that we have it over here, we're going to hit enter, and we're going to let Cursor Grok 4.5 build this application for us. One more thing I want to mention is that I've switched from high to medium. So if you click on edit right over here, you can see that there's different effort levels, which means how much effort is this model going to apply when it's completing a particular task. So earlier it was on high, I've switched over to medium, and it was earlier on fast, I've turned that off because it consumes a lot of usage, and for now we don't need exceptional speed. So I'm going to be using Cursor 4.5 medium. All right, so you can adjust that based on your preferences, but for moderate usage and pretty decent applications, perfect balance is, in my opinion, Cursor Grok 4.5 medium. So I'm going to hit enter, and we are going to let Cursor build this application for us. So what it's doing is it's planning its moves, it's thinking, and you can see it's very quick. So after thinking for 2 seconds, it's saying, building a premium university discovery app focused on Boston colleges with a scalable architecture for nationwide expansion. So if we later on want to add other cities, we can do that as well, which is a great feature. So now it's checking the workspace and then scaffolding the project. So let's wait for it to do its thing, and then it's going to tell us what it's doing. The best part about Cursor is that it's very transparent. So throughout every step, it's going to keep you updated as to what's happening and what it's doing. All right, so Cursor worked for 7 minutes and 24 seconds, and now it's given us a fully ready application. So if we want, we can check out all of the files and all of the steps that Cursor has taken to build our app for us, but we're not going to do that because we trust our agent. So what we're going to do is we're going to head over to what Cursor is saying. It's named our application Campus Scope. We can change that, of course, but I actually really like it. And it's saying that it's running at port 3000. So if I take this link and I paste it into my browser, I'm going to be able to access the application, and that's something we're going to do in just a minute. We can also open this application up within Cursor because Cursor has an in-house browser which allows you to view the application inside Cursor. You can even open up random stuff in your browser inside Cursor like YouTube and stuff. So that's really fun. So if I click on this right over here, you can see I have a browser here. Now I can do anything in this browser. I can open up youtube.com if I want to. Right, so this is Cursor's in-house browser, and we have a full section on this later on in this course, but as you can see, Cursor has an in-house browser. So this is the application right over here. We're going to check it out in detail in Chrome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it into Chrome, and then we'll be able to explore our application inside our actual browser. Okay, so here I am on port 3000 in my browser, reviewing the application that Cursor has built for me. So let's understand the depth of what Cursor has built. If I click on Explore in the nav bar, you can see that there's a variety of different universities here in Massachusetts and in Boston that it's giving me options for. So it's giving me all of these different options, different colleges. So Berklee College of Music, Boston College, Babson College, the #1 school for entrepreneurship and stuff like that. Now, if I click on map, I can actually see a live map of Boston, and I can look at all of the different universities and their particular locations. This is absolutely incredible. In less than 10 minutes, it built us this application, which is exactly what we asked for. This is exactly what we wanted. So this is a very decent application. Now, there's a lot of things that you might want to change. For example, maybe you don't like this font, maybe you don't like the color scheme. So what we're going to do is we're going to head back into Cursor, and we can iterate on this. So by iteration, I mean that if there's any changes that we want to make, all we have to do is send a follow-up. We just tell Cursor what we want it to change, and then Grok 4.5 is going to implement those changes into our application for us. And this is essentially the process of vibe coding with Cursor. The AI model builds your application for you, you review it, you take what you don't like, and you tell that to the agent. The agent fixes it, and you review it again. And you keep doing this until you achieve the state that is the ideal state of your application. No application is perfect on the first try, regardless of how good the AI agent is. There's a feedback mechanism involved where we give feedback to the AI agent, and this is how we iterate and make our applications better. So now let's make our college tracker app better by iterating. So there's a lot of things that I want to add. First, let's talk about the design. So for me, I'm a guy who likes the red and black color scheme. So I'm going to tell that to Cursor, or in this case, Grok 4.5, and we're going to have Grok 4.5 make that change for us. We're also going to add a couple of other changes. So first, let's say, change the color scheme to red and black and give it a modern look. So if you guys remember, it was not very good looking. It's looked like something out of a 2005 web page for me. So what I want is a modern look, a contemporary look with a red and black color scheme. All right, now there's also some other changes that I'd like. So while reviewing the application, I noticed that there were some colleges that did not have any associated image, like Northeastern. So what I'm going to say is there were some colleges like Northeastern that didn't have any image associated with them. Please fix that. No college should be without an image. All right, so basically whatever issues, whatever problems you have with the current application, you add that to your follow-up prompt. And then Cursor Grok 4.5 is going to iterate on the application and all of those changes are going to be solved. So for now, I think that is enough. I'm going to hit enter and we're going to let Cursor make these changes and then we're going to finalize if our application is ready to go. So let's wait for Cursor to move forward and make this change and iterate on the application for us. So it's saying that it's updating the palette to red and black and checking which university images are missing or broken. So it's going back into the CSS files, it's looking at the style, it's using Unsplash images, which means that they're going to be copyright free. So you can see that the thought process of Grok 4.5 here is very deep and very thorough. So let's just wait for it to iterate. It shouldn't take too long. This is just a minor iteration, so it should be done in under a couple of minutes, 1 or 2 minutes maximum. All right, and now it's saying done. 2 updates. Color scheme. Switch to a black plus crimson palette with red accents on CTAs, labels, progress bars, and hover states. Hero and page washes now use red/black gradients. And now images. 3 Unsplash URLs were returning 404. And now all of those are replaced with working images. So every college now has a unique verified image, and that's exactly what we asked for. So now let's open this up in our browser and let's see what this looks like. And wow, this is what I'm talking about. This is a beautiful web page that's now built just with one iteration. So think of this in a wider lens. If we iterate multiple times, adding in our preferences and our feedback every single time, think about what you could build. And this is just a hint on what this course is going to be and what your development journey with these AI tools is going to look like. There's no limit here to the potential. So you can scroll down here and you can see that now all of the colleges have beautiful images. Northeastern does as well. Earlier, Northeastern didn't. And we can scroll down. This looks great. So Boston today, every US campus tomorrow. This is amazing. All right, so I can click on map and we still see a black and red color scheme, black and red color scheme. And over here, we have a decent black and red color scheme. All right, so we have a pretty decent application. We didn't ask for much. These were the changes that we asked for, and we got them. So that's it for our first application. This was just a basic demo to show you guys how you can build a simple app with Cursor and Grok 4.5, and then how you can iterate on this and make it better. Now, if you guys want to take this application further, all you have to do is just keep iterating. So keep sending follow-up. All right, so the first feature is native browser. And the reason we need to understand native browser is because as we move on to more complex and advanced applications, we need to be able to see the changes side by side. So while we're talking to SpaceXAI's Grok 4.5, we also want to be able to see the changes reflect live side by side. Instead of having to manually open our browser and review the changes later on, we want to be able to do that in parallel. And so native browser is a browser within Cursor that allows you to view your web application while you're building it, which is something I find very convenient and many other developers do as well. Now, native browser also gives us a variety of different features. The first one of those features is a screenshot feature. So let's say there's a particular page on the application where something's wrong, and I need to include that in my follow-up prompt. For example, let's take the issue that we faced previously, where some colleges did not have an associated image. The issue is fixed now, but hypothetically. So what we would do in this case is, in native browser, we would scroll down to that particular section. So let's say this was non-existent. We didn't have this image for Harvard University. We could scroll down here, we could click on these 3 dots, and we could click on this Take Screenshot button right over here. And it would automatically insert a screenshot of this entire page into our next prompt. And then we could type in a prompt and send our follow-up. So not only will Grok 4.5 have extra context because of the screenshot, but it's also a very convenient way of just instantly clicking a button and getting a screenshot into our next prompt. So these are all things, tiny things that compound into very efficient vibe coding with Cursor. Now the next feature that we're going to be studying is design mode. And design mode opens up a world of possibilities when it comes to building beautiful software. So how do you access design mode in Cursor? Well, this button right over here in the top right corner is going to give you access to design mode. If you hover over it, you'll see this keyboard shortcut that you can also use to access design mode in Cursor. So now if I click on this, I now can click to select an element and drag to draw. So we're going to cover draw in just a minute, but before that, let's see what selecting does. So for example, if I want to select this text right over here, I can click on it, and now I can describe the change. So what I want to do is I want to change the color of this text from white to red. I want to make this very minute design change. So I'm going to describe the change right over here. I'm going to say, change the color of the text here to red instead of white. And it's Cursor Grok 4.5, and I'm going to hit enter, and it should make that change. And I'm also going to talk about why this method is a lot better than just directly sending text. And the reason for that is it has so much more additional context. It knows exactly what you're talking about. If I just said, change the white text to red, that's not specific. It might have changed this text or this text. This just makes it a lot easier for the AI model to do it quicker. And you can see instantly it says the hero campus scope title is now red. And we can see that we now have it red. So if I deselect this, we now have red text here, which is exactly what we said. So this helps a lot when you're moving fast, when you're vibe coding efficiently. Instead of having to type everything right over here manually, you can quickly select elements, describe short changes, and move forward from there. Now let's learn about the draw feature, which is the second part of the design feature and is equally as interesting. So I'm going to select design mode again. And the reason we use draw is when we want more fluidity and flexibility when we're selecting elements. So for example, what I want to do is I want to change this campus scope text into a typewriter effect text, which means that it should show a typing design here. It should go back and then type something new, go back and then type something new. It looks very beautiful, and we're going to try that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to circle this entire thing. I'm going to select this, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this to the chat. So you can either describe the change right over here, or you can describe it in the chat by just pressing Command L. So whatever the keyboard shortcut is for your operating system, you're going to see that here. So I'm just going to press Command L, and now that moves into the chat. So you can see my drawing, my very bad drawing, has now been added to the cursor chat. And so now I'm going to describe what I want. So I want you to convert this campus scope text to a typewriter effect text. Every time the word comes back after being deleted, it's being typed again, it should show the following. All right, so what's going to happen is that when a user opens up our application, they're going to see one word. Then that word is going to be deleted, and they're going to see the next word. And that's the feature that I'm trying to implement. So what we're going to say is it should show the following. And then we're going to add one. All right, the first thing is going to be find universities. The second thing is going to be Boston-based. And the third is going to be extreme ease. All right, and then the fourth is just going to be campus scope, which is the name of our application. All right, so we're going to hit enter, and now we're going to wait for it to implement that change. And what this shows you is that this draw feature allows you to go really deep into the application into very specific things. So let's wait for it to implement this change. Add a cycling typewriter for that hero text through those 4 phrases. So we're going to wait for it to implement that, and you're going to see just how beautiful it looks. So let's wait for it to move forward. It's editing typewriter.brand.tsx, and this is what I'm talking about. This looks amazing. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And as you can see, now we have a typewriter effect. So anybody opens our application, this is what they see. So this is how you can implement new features into Cursor. And we're going to be using this way of adding features where you're using the design mode and you're implementing features like this into our next application, because our next application is going to need us to do things like this. So you can see that was very quick. This is what SpaceXAI Grok 4.5 is known for. Super fast agentic coding tasks with high capabilities. So we can see that the hero title now types and deletes in a loop all of the 4 things we asked for. This was extremely quick for implementation of this feature. And now let's move on to studying some more things. Now let's study SpaceXAI's Grok 4.5 model and look at Cursor's research on the model. So the reason we're doing this is so that we gain an understanding of Grok 4.5's strengths and weaknesses. So whatever it's good at, we're going to try and give Grok instructions and tasks based on that. And we're going to try and stay away from its weaknesses. So understanding this model is going to help us with that. So let's see what it says here. So Cursor released Grok 4.5 a few days ago together with SpaceXAI. And Grok 4.5 is their most intelligent model and the first one that they've built for more than software engineering. So what do they mean here? Well, they mean other tasks like data science, finance, legal work, or anything else you can do on a computer. So Grok 4.5 can handle difficult, long-running tasks that require creatively using tools to solve problems. Sounds great. So our current usage that we've had for Grok 4.5 up until now proves that point. You guys have seen that it's pretty quick, it's pretty efficient, and it can handle big tasks as well. So let's see what else they're saying here. Now, one note that I want to add here is that even if you're using a different AI model, if you prefer an Anthropic model or an OpenAI model, or if you're watching this in the future and there are some more Grok models out there, the principle still stays the same, which is that if you want to use a model to the best of your ability and be able to direct it towards doing tasks, you need to understand the model, what it's good at, what its specialties are, how it was trained, and all of those things. So it's very important regardless of whatever model you're working on. You have to understand what it was trained for and how it was trained. So they've written a lot about the training of the model, and the only thing that I think is helpful for us is that Grok 4.5 is not a coding specialist. So while Composer 2.5 was a coding specialist, Grok 4.5's training was deliberately broader. So this means it has a proficiency across a wide range of domains, which is something that you didn't see in its predecessors. So now Grok 4.5 has proficiency across a wide range of domains. So how does that apply to what we're doing? Well, we can ask Grok 4.5 to do a lot of other things for us. We don't have to keep it limited to just building our app. If we have anything else that we need to do for our applications, which you'll see later on in the course, we can assign different tasks across different domains that aren't just coding to Grok 4.5. So we're going to explore that later on in this course. And the next thing that I think is pretty important for you guys is the cost. So the base model of Grok 4.5 is priced at $2 per million input tokens and $6 per million output tokens. And the fast variant is much more expensive. It's $4 per million input tokens and $18 per million output tokens. So this right here is a little pricey, but as far as the base model is concerned, it is very decently priced. All right, so now let's head back over to Cursor and move forward. Now let's talk about Cursor rules. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this settings button right over here. And as you can see over here, it says rules, skills, and subagents. So when I click on this, it's going to take me to the section where I can see rules. So it says use rules to guide agent behavior, like enforcing best practices or coding standards. So what exactly does this mean? Well, the name is pretty self-explanatory. A rule is something that you say that the AI agent always has to do. So for example, I could create a rule that says always talk to me like a drill sergeant in times of war. And then, whenever the AI is going to talk to me from that point on, it is going to have to follow that rule, and it's always going to talk to me like a drill sergeant or an army officer. So that's one thing. Now, as you guys saw earlier, I really like red and black as a color scheme in my applications. So what I can do is I can create a rule. I can say, from now on, all applications that you create for me should have a red and black color scheme. So rules are basically things that you can set to guide agent behavior. So if there are some best practices that you like, maybe you always want your websites to be built in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So you could click on New User Rule, and you could say, always make my websites in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. All right, so you can set up your rules based on whatever your preferences are, and this is a very customizable thing. A lot of you guys have probably used tools like ChatGPT or Claude, and they also allow you to customize your chatbot. So this is just applying that to agentic engineering. We're not customizing our chatbot here, we're customizing the entire agent. So if there's anything that you want the agent to do, to not do, anything that you want the agent to always follow, you mention that over here in rules. Now let's talk about a term that you've probably heard very often, and that is context window. What exactly does this mean? Well, in the bottom right corner here, you're going to see a circle, and that circle is an indicator for the context window. So right now it's saying that 38% context used, and it's also giving us 96,000 tokens out of 256,000 tokens have been used. So what exactly does this mean? Well, a context window basically means how many tokens a specific AI model can work with or deal with at once. So each AI model has its own context window. So for example, right here, Fable 5 has a 300K context window, and Opus 4.8 also has a 300K context window. But Composer 2.5 has a 200K context window. Now for Grok 4.5, I've currently configured it at 256K context window, but you can take it all the way up to 500K context window if you go to max. So each model has its own context window. Now keep in mind, this is something that a lot of people get wrong. The context window of a model has nothing to do with how good the model is. Those things are not directly related or directly proportional. So just because a model has a higher context window does not mean that it is a better performing model. Just keep that in mind. Now let's talk about some practices in the AI world that are going to help you save a lot of money, usage, tokens, context, credits, and all of those things. So the first thing is AI tokenomics, and this is what this entire thing is about. AI tokenomics is the financial management of your AI costs based on tokens. So whenever you're using AI, you're charged based on the number of input tokens and output tokens. For example, when we were looking at Grok's cost earlier in this course, we talked about how the model is priced at $2 per million input tokens and $6 per million output tokens, right? So each model has its own specific cost. So if we scroll down here, you can see that AI tokenomics is the financial management of AI costs based on how models charge per token for inputs and outputs. Now, context management is just one subpart of AI tokenomics, and there's a lot of ways to manage your context, and in this course, we're going to be talking about two of the best ones, which are model routing and prompt optimization. Now, prompt optimization is very simple, so we're going to cover that later, but model routing is something that I'm very passionate about, and I think you're going to find it very interesting. So let's head back to. So in order to understand model routing, all you have to understand is that what we're doing is we're giving different tasks to different AI models based on the complexities of the task and the model's specialty. So for example, if I have a very basic task, one task that does not require too much thinking, too much reasoning, but I need it to be done very quickly, I can give that to GLM 5.2. For example, changing the color of a button, right? It's a very simple task. I'm not going to give this task to a model like Fable 5 because Fable 5 is very, very expensive and it's not going to do an exceptionally better job at just changing the color of a button, right? So that's token wasting here. And you're wasting your usage here if you're using something like Fable 5 for doing such simple tasks. So when it comes to these simple tasks, you alternate. You switch to cheaper models like GLM 5.2. And then when you have an advanced task, something that requires a lot of effort, reasoning, intellect, then you can switch over to an advanced model like Grok 4.5 or Fable 5. And then when you do that, those models will charge you a lot for that, sure, but that charge is justified because they actually use that intellect and intelligence towards building something advanced that a cheaper model might have failed at or might not have been able to produce in equal quality. So model routing basically means, based on the complexity of the task, you're giving different tasks to different models. You're giving the easier tasks to cheaper models, and you're giving the more complex and advanced models to the better models, which might be more expensive, but they're better. Now that we know these principles, we can start building our second application. And for our second application, we're going to be building a platform that helps startups. Now, I have a very vague idea of what I want this app to be, and the reason I haven't put too much thought into it is because we're going to be using the plan mode inside Cursor to help us build it. So with the help of Grok 4.5 and with the help of plan mode, we are going to define our idea. We're going to ideate with the agent instead of just giving our thoughts to the agent. All right, so the vague idea that I have is an app called NMNX Startup Win. All right, so it's going to take a startup from a vague idea and it's going to give the startup founder proven strategies in the niche. So for example, if I'm starting a YouTube channel as my startup, just hypothetically, this app would give the user or the founder strategies that have worked for YouTubers who have succeeded before. It's going to give them proven strategies that have worked. It's going to give them lists of competitors. So if I want to be a tech YouTuber, it's going to give me a list of Marquez Brownlee, Mr. Who's the Boss, Linus Tech Tips. And it's going to tell me what their approaches are. It's going to give me the competitor approaches. It's going to tell me about the VCs who have funded similar startups. So if I'm starting a social networking company, it would tell me about Peter Thiel and how he funded Facebook or whatever. And then it's going to tell me the best location to build the startup. So whether that's Silicon Valley or Bangalore or Dublin, I don't know, any random place, it's going to tell me which location is best for this specific startup, right? So it's going to help a founder build their company from the ground up. That's what we're going to try and build. Now, the very simple things that I have in mind here are I want to try to integrate AI in the application for zero cost. All right, so I don't want to spend any money, but I want AI to be integrated into this entire platform. So we're going to try that. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, I don't know. And that's exactly what the agent is going to help us with. That's exactly why agentic engineering is different from all previous forms of engineering. If you don't know something, the agent is going to figure it out with you. All right, so these are my ideas that I have for this platform. Now let's take all of this, let's take what we've learned, let's form a prompt, and let's put this into Grok 4.5. Okay, so here I am in Cursor, and as you can see, I've put in a prompt. I've written this prompt by myself, and I've kept it as simple as possible. So I'm saying, build me an app mnemonic startup win. The platform should take the user's startup idea, niche, and industry, and then give them proven strategies, competitor lists, competitor approaches, and strategies, VCs who have funded previous startups, best location to build a specific startup, and all details it can to help the user/founder. I would also like this platform to be AI-powered. No mock data, just real AI-powered solutions. But I am not willing to spend anything. Is this possible? Can you do this for me? If so, then how? I'm open to using cheap, free models from OpenRouter, if that can work. Study the different options I have deeply, along with my idea, and tell me how it would work. So what you can see here is that there is something that I did not know. I don't know how to integrate AI into this without paying for an API. And I want Grok 4.5 to help me figure out the solution. And so what we're going to do is we're going to enter plan mode, because I don't want it to just go ahead and start building. I want it to first explain the plan to me, and then I approve the plan, and then it starts building. So what we're going to do is we're going to head over to plan mode. All right, so I'm just going to switch over to plan mode. And now that we are in plan mode, we have our model selected, I can hit enter, and it's going to start planning what it's going to do for our application. So now it's thinking, and let's wait for the plan that it's going to give us. So I'm just going to say run. All right, so I'll study whether real AI-powered startup win can run at zero cost, dig into OpenRouter free models and architecture options, and then lay out how it would work for your idea, which is exactly what I wanted. I want Cursor Grok 4.5 to lay it out for me so that I can understand it. All right, so let's just wait for it to move forward. So you can see it's going to all of these different sites, it's searching for all of the options that we have, and it's going to do all of its research and then come back to us. All right, and one more thing that is super amazing here is that it is talking to us like a drill sergeant. So I do have the rule in place where it says, always talk to me like a drill sergeant. That is in place in my rules in Cursor. So yes, recruit, this is possible at $0. OpenRouter free models can power real AI analysis with no mock data and no credit card. But I need 2 calls from you before I lock the battle plan. So you can see that it's talking to me like a drill sergeant, army officer, which is pretty fun. So you can play around with that as well. It doesn't cost you money, and it's really fun. All right, so what free plus real AI actually means. So real AI, no mock JSON, yes. Live Crunchbase / PitchBook accuracy, no. Those APIs cost money. So what it's doing here is it's giving us very honest and brutal feedback on our idea. It's saying that while we will be able to give you real AI answers, it's not going to be as accurate as Crunchbase or PitchBook because those APIs cost money. So competitor / VC list for model knowledge or free web search, not paid databases. Of course, that goes without saying. And daily usage. Free tier is roughly 50 requests per day. So we can't scale this, but for our app, which is just a project for now, that's perfectly okay. So what you can see here is that plan mode helps us ideate without actually building, which is why it's very helpful, especially if you're a beginner. Spend a lot of time in plan mode, read the files that Cursor gives you and the models give you in plan mode, and once you're sure about everything, once you've asked all of your questions, once you have an entire plan, then move to building. So proven strategies, frameworks, location reasoning, strong on free models. Named competitors and VCs, better if we ground with free search. Pure LLM alone can invent or stale date firms. All right. So free stack that actually works, it's saying OpenRouter, all of this. All right, so we'll do this later. 2 decisions, answer both. So what do we have to answer? All right, so pure OpenRouter AI only. Okay. AI plus web search. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go for pure OpenRouter AI only. All right, because I don't want to push for accuracy right now. I want to get the MVP, the minimum viable product. Once we have that, later on, we could change the architecture to free web search as well. Or, yeah, because I don't want it to be fragile. All right, so we're going to go with OpenRouter AI directly. And then where does this live? We're going to go with local only for now. It's just a basic project. Once we have the MVP, once it's working, then we can scale it. Then we can add web search. Then we can add paid API plans. Then we can deploy it. We can do all of those things. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to do pure OpenRouter AI only and local only. So once you pick, I'll write the full plan. All right, no code until you approve that plan. All right, so what I'm going to say is for 1, let's go with A. And for 2, let's go with B. Local, and A, pure OpenRouter AI only. Lock and load, Sergeant. All right, I'm just playing around here. So we're telling it our options that we've selected. And so what you can see here is that we're not ideating alone. We are ideating with the AI agent. We are collaborating with the AI agent here. So now it's drafting the battle plan. The decisions are locked, pure open router AI, local only. Now let's talk about the brilliance of the plans that Cursor comes up with. So what you can see here is a very detailed plan. There's literally a diagram here to explain to us what the plan is. So there's just so much work that Cursor does for us that it's absolutely incredible. So it's saying, yes, this works at $0. You bring a free open router API key, the app calls live, free models, no mock data, no web search, no deploy, local only. Honest constraint. Competitor/VC names come from the model's training knowledge, and those can be wrong. Strategies, on the other hand, GTM framing and location reasoning, will still be strong and useful for a founder briefing. So it's being upfront with us. A lot of models will lie to your face and they'll say, oh yeah, sure, we'll do it, when it knows that it's actually not going to be able to do it. But over here, you can see that Grok 4.5 is very honest, which is something that Elon claims a lot. So we can see that right over here. And then it's talking about the stack, so it's going to be using Next.js, TypeScript, Tailwind, AI, model strategy. All right. And then it's saying how one analysis works. So request budget, critical for free tier, 1 open router call per analysis, not 6 parallel agents. 1 large structured JSON response covering all sections. That will keep you at 1 analysis is roughly 1 request. So you can run dozens of ideas per day within free limits. So it understands how important frugality is for me, and it's taking that into consideration when it's giving us a plan, which is something that I really like. It's being very considerate here. So it's then telling us about the product surface, so the input, the output sections, what it's going to look like. We don't need to get into too much detail there. All right, so the plan looks good. So we reviewed the plan, and now we can head over to build mode, and we're going to let it build for us. So I'm just going to click on build right over here, and now it's going to transition to build mode, and it's going to start building our application for us. So roger that, locking onto the first objective, scaffolding the Next.js app now. And we don't have to do anything. Our drill sergeant is doing everything for us. Grok 4.5 is doing everything for us. So this is the beauty of agentic engineering. It's this process of planning, of talking to the AI agents, of relating with them, of having them help you, and building great software. All right, guys, so it's built the first iteration of the application for us in just 3 minutes and 34 seconds, which is an incredibly short amount of time. So it's saying that the mission is complete. Mnemonic Startup Win is live locally, so I can open this and it'll open. So what do we have? A red and black local Next.js app. Now, one thing I want to remind you guys here is that I did not include red or black in this prompt. If we go back over to the prompt, right over here, I did not say red and black anywhere. You guys can pause and check that out. But I do have it as a rule in Cursor. So the rule applies here, right? So this is why rules are helpful. I don't have to mention that in every prompt. I don't have to waste my input tokens here. That's already there. So red and black local Next.js app, brand first hero, briefing form, structured results, real AI pipeline. All right, so the pipeline is right over here. It explained the entire pipeline for us. 1 open router call per analysis. All right, and then free model chain and no mock data. So it's empty until you run a real analysis. Now it's saying your move, recruit, as an army sergeant. And it's saying this is where you get your free key. Open this, and then you can start testing it out. So let's do that. I'm going to head. All right, guys. So Cursor Grok 4.5 has built our application. And now what we're going to do is we're going to test it out. So I'm going to click on run the briefing, and we're going to enter in our startup idea. So I already have one ready. I'm building an AI services company where we build AI solutions for small business owners. Niche is AI, industry is AI. Target customer is small businesses in the United States, Europe, and Asia. All right, United States, Europe, and Asia. All right, and we are currently in the idea stage. I'm going to click on generate briefing, and now it's analyzing, and then it's going to give me a real brief, exactly what we wanted, exactly what our idea was. Let's just see if it works and how it works. Let's just wait for it. So it's saying free models can take up to 20 to 60 seconds under load. Hold the line. So let's wait for it to generate a brief for us based on our idea and based on the information that we've entered. All right, guys, so it's saying briefing complete, and it's giving us live feedback on the idea using AI. So it's saying that SMBs globally spend more than $150 billion annually on software, but only 15% have dedicated AI talent. A simple, affordable AI layer can capture a large, underserved market across the EU, US, and Asia Pacific. So it's giving us strategies, free tier with limited AI interactions, industry-specific AI templates, build a defensible IP moat, launch via SMB SaaS marketplaces, cultivate an SMB AI community. So it's giving us all of the tips that work for this industry. Now, all of these things don't work for all industries, right? If I was starting a food company, these things wouldn't work. Build a defensible IP moat. So it's customized based on the details that we put in, which is exactly what we wanted. So now we have competitors and approaches. So Freshworks does that. ADA does that. Intercom, Zoho, all these companies are doing the same work. VCs and investors, so Andreessen Horowitz, A16Z, these guys invest in it. Sequoia invests in it. Sequoia invests in such startups. Y Combinator invests in such startups. So basically, this is exactly what we envisioned. So the idea that I had right over here, we brought that to life in just a couple of minutes using Cursor Grok 4.5. And this is the first iteration of our application. Now we can iterate on this and make this a lot better and refine this, because now that we know all of these things, all of the things that we learned up until now in this course, we can take this application really far. We can really level this up, and that's what we're going to do right now. All right, so this is a good example of how I use ask mode. Sometimes my mind is in a saturated state. I don't have ideas. So what I'll do is I'll head over to ask mode. Right over here, you can just select ask mode. And so I just deselected that. I'm going to select that ask mode. And I'm going to say, what can we do to improve the app? Make it super, super professional and real. Right now, it looks like a weekend project. And so what it's saying is that, listen up, the bones are solid. All right, it still feels like a weekend project because the product surface is thin. One long page, one spinner, one dump of text. Pros sell process plus confidence, not just JSON arrived. So here's what actually moves the needle in order. Right, so it's giving us a bunch of suggestions on what we can do to turn this from what currently looks like a weekend project to an actual shippable application. So what we're going to do is we're going to let it turn this into reality. So right now it's saying, want me to turn this into a concrete upgrade plan? Switch to agent mode and say which priority you want first. I'll build it. So we're going to switch over to agent mode. All right, so I'm just going to deselect this. We're back in agent mode. And now I'm going to say do all. Do all of them. Make it super, super advanced and real and good. And I'm being informal here intentionally, right? You can be all technical and polished with the AI agent, but I feel like the more comfortable you are, the more open you are, the more you let your thoughts flow directly, the more the AI agent is going to be able to satisfy you. So it's saying, roger that, full upgrade. Wizard flow, dossier UI, scores, export, history, and denerded copy, locking in and executing. All right, so let's just wait for it to edit everything and build that for us. Again, you don't have to be very formal with the AI agent. You could be very natural. That's at least the way I like to approach it. So what I love about Cursor Grok 4.5 is the speed. I mean, just look at that. This is just 2 minutes and 24 seconds, and it gave us this full upgrade. So hard refresh localhost 3001, and this is a different animal now. So what we got, 3-step intake, intelligence pipeline, real dossier, tables, sticky nav, export, local archive, denerded copy, sharper AI schema. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to open this up and now go run one and see if it still feels like, okay, so this is the revised version. It's saying founder intelligence for your niche, strategies, competitive maps, investor patterns, and where to build. So I click on start briefing, it takes me here. So now it has this 3-step intake, which is better than what we had before. So startup idea, what are you building? I don't know, I'm building an AI services company for small businesses in the United States. All right, continue. Niche AI, and small businesses. All right, and we're going to click on continue. Now it's building our dossier. This usually takes 20 to 60 seconds. Framing market thesis, mapping competitive field, scoring strategies and channels, matching investor patterns, ranking build locations, assembling founder dossier. So this is step by step. It's a lot cleaner, much more professional looking, better looking than what we had before. And now we have the brief, which looks very nice. So overall A-. This is actually a lot better.
This looks a lot more professional. And yeah, this is great. So it definitely did improve here. Best location to build for me is Austin, Texas. So, all right, we'll keep that in mind. So now we have a briefing, and this looks great. AI ops for U.S. small businesses. Executive summary, all of this. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but what you can see here is that after getting an idea with the agent in ask mode, and then telling it to move over to agent mode and then implementing that plan, we now have a much better application in just one iteration in a couple of minutes. So you can keep iterating like this. You can use ask mode to ask the agent for more ideas, and you can keep making your application better and better.
Now let's talk about GitHub, which is very important for two reasons. The first is that right now, we've been building applications locally on our own computer, and we've been hosting them and running them locally on our browser. But what we want now is other people should also be able to access our applications on the web. And in order to do that, we must deploy and publish our applications. And in the process of deployment, we need to use GitHub. We need to push our code to GitHub. I'm going to explain what all this means in just a second. But before that, let's understand the second reason why GitHub is very important for us, and that is version control. So right now, we are on the second iteration of our application. Let's say I iterate some more on it and I reach a version 3. But after that, I realize I liked version 2 better. So how will I go back to version 2 if I haven't saved the code for version 2? So GitHub basically allows me to save the code at different parts of the project cycle. So right now we're on version 2. So I can save all of the code for version 2, and later on, if I ever want to access that code, I will have all of that code saved for version 2 in GitHub. So we're going to learn about version control and deployment and GitHub. Now let's talk about what GitHub is. GitHub is a platform owned by Microsoft that allows millions of developers around the world to save and share their code. So the code that Cursor Grok 4.5 has written for us, we need to save that somewhere, and GitHub is the place to do it. So you can use GitHub indefinitely for free. You don't have to worry about anything like that. So what I've done is I've created a free account on github.com, and I've come to github.com/new. And here we can create a new repository. A repository basically contains the project's files and version history. So what we're going to do is we're going to rename our repository. So for now, I'm just going to say nmnx startup win. All right. And this is available. Great. So I'm not going to add a description right now, but you can add a description to the repository. All right. Now there's two types of repositories, public and private. I'm pretty sure those are pretty self-explanatory. A public GitHub repository is a repository that anyone on the internet can see, and you can choose who can commit. All right, I'll explain what committing is in just a minute. And a private GitHub repository is where you choose who can see and commit to this repository. So nobody can see it without your permission. For now, I'm going to leave my repository as public, but you can set it up based on your preferences. All right. Now, a README is just basically an explanation of the entire project. We can have Cursor Grok 4.5 generate that for us. It's probably already generated one in its code base. Right? You don't need to worry about any of these things. And you can click on Create Repository, and it's going to create a repository for you. Now, you're going to get this link right over here. And this is very important because we're going to be giving this link to Cursor in order to deploy and publish our code. So just keep that in mind. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to tell Cursor Grok 4.5 to save all of our code and save our project on GitHub. And the way we're going to do that is the link that we just copied from our GitHub repository. We're going to paste that right here. All right, so I'm going to paste that right over here. And then we're going to say, can you please push all of our code to this repository? Let me know what you need. Just get it done, please. All right, and I'm going to hit enter. And now it's going to push all of our code to this GitHub repository. All right, so it's pushing startup win to that GitHub repo. It's checking remotes and branch state first. Now, meanwhile, while it's doing that, I'm going to tell you guys what a commit is. So commit basically means a checkpoint. So think of it like saving a document in a Word file, right? So it allows you to have that checkpoint at a particular period in time. So later on, when you want to go back, maybe you made a mistake, you want to go back, you can just go back to that point where you committed and you can just access all of your code from there. So I'm going to not allow this right now. All right, let's just wait for it to do everything else. All right, and now it's saying that done. Code is live on GitHub. Repo is the exact same repo that we put in. And then it's telling us the branch, it's telling us the commit, and it's saying that our API key was not pushed, which is excellent. We can push that separately if we want to. So now I'm going to click on this and it takes me to our repository. And as you can see, our repository has all of these files. So it has a Claude.md file, it has a README file. So let's click on the README file and see what we have here. Mnemonic Startup Win, Founder Intelligence for your niche. And you can look at this. This is just such a structured README. This is absolutely beautiful. This is great. All right, so we can go back right over here and we can see all of these different files. So there's a README down here. This looks like a professional, very nice repository. So it's giving us the languages. It's mostly TypeScript, some CSS, and a very small bit of JavaScript. So this is absolutely incredible. So there's public files, there's source files, and there's a bunch of things here. So all of our code is now published and deployed to GitHub. So later on, at any point in our product development lifecycle, if we ever want to access version 2 of Mnemonic Startup Win, we have that repository saved. Now that we've pushed our code to a GitHub repository, we can deploy our application. And for this tutorial, we're going to be using Vercel for deploying. So all we have to do is import our repo and we can deploy in seconds. And it has a hobby plan which costs you nothing. So the perfect starting place for your web app or personal project, which is exactly what we have and exactly what I'd recommend you get started with. Later on, if you want to deploy more complex applications, if you're making money off of this, you want to scale your app, then you can switch over to the Pro plan. But for now, we're going to be using the hobby plan. All right, so what you want to do is you want to head over to Vercel.com and create an account. After creating my free account with Vercel, it asked me to connect my GitHub, which I did. And now it's asking me to import this Git repository. So I'm just going to click on import, and we're going to import this repository. So my Vercel team is called NMNX, and this is the project name. And what we're going to do is we're going to click on deploy right over here. All right, so I'm going to click on deploy, and hopefully it should work. So what we want is we want a link that we can share with other people. And that link is going to be accessible to anyone all over the world. So we've deployed the application that we built with Cursor so that anyone can access it. So let's just wait for Vercel to deploy our application fully. All right, and boom, it's saying, congratulations, you just deployed a new project to NMNX. And it's saying, this is the application, this is our application. And what we can do now is we can continue to dashboard, and it's going to give us this link. So right over here, if I click on this link, it takes me to this application, and this is exactly what our application was. So we have the app that we built with Cursor. We took that code, we pushed it to a GitHub repository, all right, using Cursor. And now that we have this GitHub repository, we use Vercel to deploy our application completely for free. And now we have this link that we can send to anyone, and they'll also be able to access and use our application. By now, you've learned all of the important features in Cursor. Now let's talk about agent skills, which are very valuable. So an agent skill is basically used for extending AI agents with specialized capabilities. So for example, I could create a skill for formatting documents. All right, now let's say I'm vibe coding with Cursor and a time comes where I need to format a document. So what I can do is I can invoke the skill that I've created for formatting documents, and the agent will know everything about formatting documents because it already has that specialized capability through the skill. So when we invoke a skill, we give our agent specialized capabilities for specific tasks. So a skill for formatting documents can be invoked, and that'll give the agent the capability of formatting documents. Now we can create a variety of different skills. There's also a lot of built-in skills, and we're going to talk about that in detail. So a skill is a portable version-controlled package that teaches agents how to perform domain-specific tasks. So I could have a skill that analyzes the stock price of companies, just a hypothetical example. And now let's say I'm building a financial application and I need to analyze the stock price of a variety of different companies. So I can invoke that skill right over here. I can invoke a skill using the / command. I'm going to show you how to do that. And the agent will then have all of a sudden the capability of analyzing stock prices. So you can give your agent a variety of different skills and just make it so much more capable. So how do skills work? When Cursor starts, it automatically discovers skills from skill directories and makes them available to the agent. The agent is presented with available skills and decides when they are relevant based on context. So while I'm conversing through agentic engineering with the agent might realize that it needs to invoke and use a particular skill. So that's when it's presented with the available skills and it decides, okay, we need to use this now. Now you can also manually invoke skills by typing a / in the agent chat and searching for the skill name. And we're going to do this in just a few minutes. So we have some built-in skills in Cursor as well. Cursor includes a small set of built-in skills to improve your general workflows. These skills are managed by Cursor and appear alongside the skills you add yourself. So on one hand, we have the skills that we're going to create, right? These are specific to our workflows.
So if I'm a YouTuber, I'm going to create a lot of skills that are going to help me in my YouTube journey. If I'm an economist, I'm going to create a lot of skills that are going to help me in my economics work and research. And then we have the skills that Cursor has, built-in skills. And these are general skills that are going to help you when you're agentic engineering with Cursor. So for example, create skill is a skill that helps us create agent skills. Create rules helps us create Cursor rules, which is something we discussed earlier on in the course. Right, so there's a variety of different skills here. There's loop, so runs a prompt or skill repeatedly at a specific interval. Or review, so selects and runs the appropriate code review agent when you want to review your code. So there's all sorts of built-in skills in Cursor, and you can run any built-in skill by typing / in agent chat and selecting its name. Agent may also use some built-in skills automatically when your request clearly matches their purpose. So when you're agentic engineering, if the agent identifies, so right over here in our Cursor interface, you can see this / for skills, right? So if I click on /, then we get access to all of these skills. So these are built-in skills, right? You can see it says built-in Cursor skill. And there's 15 more Cursor skills. So all of the skills that we saw over there, they're right over here. Now let's look at how we can create our own skill. So you want to click on the settings button right over here, and we're going to go back to this section, rules, skills, and subagents. All right, and you can scroll down here and see skills. Skills are specialized capabilities that help the agent accomplish specific tasks. Skills will be invoked by the agent when relevant or can be triggered manually with / in chat. So I'm pretty sure you guys have understood all of this. Now let's talk about how we can create a new skill. So to create a new skill, what we're going to do is we're going to click on this new skill button right over here, and it's going to take us over here. So it already is using the built-in skill called create skill, and this built-in skill in Cursor is going to help us create our own new skill. So the skill that I want to build is a skill that gives the agent the capability of suggesting when a new rule needs to be made. So if I'm repeatedly asking for something, then the agent should be able to identify that and then suggest that we could turn that into a rule. So I want to give the agent this skill. So that's the skill that we're going to be building. So what I've said here is help me create this skill for Cursor, suggesting Cursor rules. So whenever I repeat an instruction or when the agent realizes that I've been asking for something repeatedly, and it's quite common in my workflows, the agent should suggest turning that into a rule. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to hit enter and see where this goes. All right, so it's saying that, all right, soldier, clear mission, catch repeated instructions and push them into Cursor rules before they become bad habits. So instead of having to repeat instructions so many times and turning that into a bad habit, it's going to push that into a rule before that automatically. And so it's going to write this skill for us. And it's asking two questions. So where does this skill live? So personal, which will be for all projects, or just this project will be for this repository only. And how pushy should the agent be? Quiet nudge, one short suggestion when a repeat shows up, then drop it if you ignore it, or firm recommendation. Suggest plus draft the rule text plus offer to create it with this create rule skill. My recommendation is personal plus firm. That's how you stop repeating yourself across every mission. So it's basically asking us specifications for the skill. Do you want the skill to apply to only this project or to all projects? And this is a very important decision that you're going to make for every skill that you create. That skill can either apply to a particular project or it can apply to all of your. So for most skills, if your workflows are quite similar, you want to keep them for all of your projects. So in this case, that would be personal. But if there's a skill that you're creating that's only for one project, the project that you're currently working on, you can keep that skill specifically for living in that particular project. And this is just a question that the agent is asking. I'm going to go with firm recommendation. All right. So I'm going to say personal and firm. All right. And we're going to hit enter. And now it's going to build and write the entire skill for us. So it's so seamless. I don't even have to do anything. I don't have to create a skills.md file by myself or any of that stuff. I just tell the agent that I want to create this skill using the /create skill built-in skill. And it's going to help me build the entire skill, write the entire skill from scratch. I don't even have to do anything. So even writing skills is very easy. And then once you have those skills written, using them with the / command is just so easy. So this is a very, very seamless process. You can see it's editing skill.md. We're going to take a look at the skill.md file as well so that you guys understand it. And it's saying skill is live recruit. This is the location. Mode, personal, auto-discoverable. When you repeat yourself or the agent spots a durable workflow habit, it will call out the pattern, draft the rule text, recommend user versus project scope, and offer to create it automatically. So this is great. Okay, so I've clicked on the skill.md file and it's opened up right over here. This is the skill.md file. And we're going to study this. So we're going to head over to the Cursor documentation and talk about the skill.md file.
But first, let's see what Cursor has written for us in this skill.md file. So it's given the skill a name, suggesting Cursor rules, which is exactly what we told it to name the skill. And then there's a description. The description says, detects repeated user instructions and recurring workflow preferences, then firmly suggests turning them into Cursor rules. Use when the user repeats an instruction, restates the same preference across turns or chats, corrects the same behavior more than once, or when a pattern is clearly a durable workflow convention. So this is exactly what I had envisioned, and this instruction is for the agent. So the agent is going to use this skill, and it says use when, right? So the agent is going to follow this and use the skill at that particular time when the user repeats an instruction. All right. So what we can do is we can head back over to Chrome, and the skill.md file format. Each skill is defined in a skill.md file. So this is that exact file. The skill is defined within this file, and it has a particular format, right? So name, and then the description is a short description of what this skill does and when to use it. And so what you can see here is this description is exactly that. It tells what the skill is and when to use it. So remember how earlier we were talking about how the agent can pull a skill or invoke a skill based on its relevance to the present conversation? Well, how is it going to know what to check for relevance? It's going to check the description. So since the description describes what the skill does and when to use it, when the agent needs to decide to use the skill, it's going to use the description to determine the relevance of that skill. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, what if I don't want the agent to invoke a skill whenever it deems appropriate? What you can do then is you can disable automatic invocation. So by default, skills are automatically applied when the agent determines that they are relevant. But if you want to take that power of determining whether they are relevant away from the agent, you can do that by setting disable model invocation to true. And that will make a skill behave like a traditional slash command, where it is only included in context when you explicitly type /skill name in chat. So what this means is, instead of giving the agent the power to determine whether or not to use a particular skill, you keep that power to yourself. So now we can test that the skill has been created just by typing / and the name of the skill. So it's right over here. You can see that we have the skill. We have a description for the skill that we've just created. So now you can create as many skills as you want with the process you've just learned. And by building skills for your work, you'll find that most of your important tasks can actually be done by the agent. And when you create skills, you give the agent very specific and detailed instructions for how to accomplish that particular task. So it really makes it very... Now we're going to talk about MCP, Model Context Protocol. This is a term that is very often used in the AI space, and I'm going to make sure that you understand it and its importance. So let's take an example. Let's say I ask Cursor to generate a video for me, a very high quality video. It's not going to be able to do that because it doesn't have access to any tool specifically for generating videos. So this is where an MCP comes handy. We use an MCP to connect Cursor to an external tool. So in this case, we would use a tool like Remotion, which allows you to generate videos. And we're not going to use any of these tools in this case. We're going to use a specific tool called Remotion. And then what's going to happen is that now that we've connected the MCP server of Remotion, we're going to be able to generate videos. So it gives Cursor access to that external tool, and now it has the capabilities associated with it. So the next time I say generate this video for me, inside Cursor, we've connected the MCP server for Remotion. So it's going to be able to generate that video for me. Now this applies to thousands of MCPs that are available online. So if you've used tools like Linear, Figma, and Notion, they all have MCPs that you can connect to Cursor. So Model Context Protocol servers connect Cursor to external tools and data sources like Linear, Figma, and Notion. So for example, Cursor and Figma set up the MCP server. The Figma MCP gives Cursor structured access to Figma files and tools. So Figma is one of the world's most popular tools for design. Now, if you want to install MCP servers, the easiest way is to just install it through a plugin. Now, if you don't know what plugins are yet, don't worry. We're going to cover that in just a few minutes along this course. But what we mean here is that if you install a plugin, it automatically contains an MCP. So by installing the Figma plugin, I will automatically get access to the Figma MCP. And along with that, I'll also get access to some very common workflows in the form of skills. So these are very useful skills with regards to this particular MCP and plugin that I'm using. So these skills will be related to Figma and designing with Figma in Cursor. So you'll also get these skills. So you get all of these skills and you also get the Figma MCP by installing the plugin. All right, so this is one. Now what you can do is you can look at a variety of different MCPs and plugins here. So there's Linear, if you guys have used Linear.
There's all sorts of things here. So Appify, there's an Appify plugin in MCP. And there's a variety of different things that you can check out. There's Slack over here, Slack MCP server. So if I click on Slack, you can just get the Slack MCP right over here. So what the Slack MCP server will allow you to do is search channels, send messages, and perform other Slack actions through MCP compatible clients. So if you want to do all of these things through Cursor, you can do that simply by installing the Slack MCP. So you just click on Add to Cursor and it gets added automatically. All right, so there's a variety of MCPs and plugins you can search here in the Cursor Marketplace. Just click on this and you see so many different ones. There's Azure from Microsoft, there's Encore, there's Firebase, Clerk. Clerk is used for authentication, right? So Clerk Authentication Toolkit for Cursor, Setup Guides, MCP Server, and Specialized Skills. So a lot of these plugins will contain skills as well. So this is great. You know, if you want to start adding authentication, user authentication, log in and sign up into your applications, I'd really recommend adding the Clerk MCP to your Cursor. So how exactly do you use MCPs in the process of agentic engineering? Well, what you can do is you can ask for a specific tool by name or describe what you need. So for example, if I'm working on some designs and I want Cursor to start using Figma for me, I can simply tell it to use Figma MCP for this particular task. That's it. And it will use that. Now, Cursor automatically uses MCP tools that are listed under available tools when relevant. So that's something to keep in mind. And that includes plan mode as well. Now, when it comes to approval, Cursor asks for approval before using MCP tools by default. So there are some security considerations listed here. So verify the source always, right? You always want to make sure that you're installing MCP servers from organizations that you trust are not bad actors, trusted developers, and repositories. All right, review your permissions. Make sure that only data that you want these MCP servers to be able to access, that's the only data that they have. Limit your API keys, audit your code, and always remember that MCP servers can access external services and execute code on your behalf. So always understand what a server does before installation. All right, so now we'll talk about subagents. So the agent that we interact with is called the main agent. And the main agent breaks down the complex tasks that we give it into smaller tasks that it then further gives to subagents. So the main agent breaks down the task that we give it into smaller tasks, which it gives to subagents. So subagent 1 gets one task, subagent 2 gets another task like reviewing the code base, subagent 3 is told to review the browser or integrate with the browser, subagent 4 is told to run commands in the terminal. So there's a different task given to each subagent. Now subagents can also launch their own child subagents, which are further subagents of subagents, but a child subagent cannot launch another subagent. All right, so the main agent subagents, the subagents created by the main agent, can launch further subagents, but those subagents that have been created by a subagent cannot launch further subagents. Right, that's just something to keep in mind. Now, there's different types of subagents, custom and built-in. All right, so we're going to be talking about built-in. Now, there's 3 built-in subagents inside Cursor: Bash, Browser, and Explore. So the main agent automatically keeps giving tasks to these subagents as and when it deems necessary. So Explore is for exploring the code base, Browser is for browser tasks and integrating with the browser, and Bash is for running commands. So whenever we're interacting with the agent will automatically move in between these agents because these are tasks that require a lot of context, and for a variety of different reasons, it's going to give and delegate those tasks to these subagents. Now, we've already touched upon plugins, so I'm just going to give you guys a little bit more information about plugins and what they are. So plugins basically contain a variety of different things that we've already studied, like skills, rules, MCPs, and agents. So if I install a plugin, I automatically get access to all of these things. So for example, if I install the Datadog plugin or random plugin, I will get the Datadog MCP, and I'll also get the Datadog skills related to Datadog in Cursor. So use Datadog directly in Cursor through a pre-configured Datadog MCP server, and this plugin is in preview. Right, so that's basically what plugins are. You get a variety of different things through installing one thing, so you just add the plugin and you get all of these things. So if you guys have stuck around all the way until this part of the course, I'm pretty sure you guys are just as fascinated with Cursor as I am. So now I'm going to share some of my personal tips and tricks and things that I really love about Cursor. The first of which is dictation. So right here it says, voice mode lets you dictate better prompts for your agents. Right, so this is what I'm talking about. For me, I'm somebody who thinks a lot while speaking. For example, while recording this course, all I'm doing is just speaking and letting my thoughts flow to you guys. Now, instead of you guys, let's say I want to communicate to the AI agents.
Now I can do that because of Dictation. Dictation allows me to speak directly to the AI agents without having to type. I can just let my thoughts flow and speak. So for example, let me show you guys how I will dictate a prompt for building an application to the AI agent. Build me an e-commerce website. I am deeply fascinated by Amazon and eBay, and I want you to build something similar for me. I want it to have a super good looking UI, modern, minimalistic, with glass morphism, a matte black color. Just make it look super, super nice. I also want it to have all the features that an e-commerce website would have. I want checkout. I want users to be able to browse products. I want users to be able to add products to their cart. I want users to be able to look at customer reviews. And I want it to be a holistic experience that allows users to really enjoy the platform. So what you can see is I've been very articulate and I've been speaking whatever comes to mind. It allows me to communicate a lot more effectively than I would be if I was just typing. So now you can see that I have that into a prompt very quickly. So I find this to be a very efficient method of communicating with AI agents, and I just thought of sharing it with you guys in case you guys might like this method as well. Now I have some tips for you guys when it comes to prompting Cursor, and these tips aren't too common, but they're going to help you a lot, and they're very important in my opinion. So if you guys remember, we were brainstorming and ideating with the AI agents throughout this entire course, right? I've never claimed to have all of the ideas in my head or anything like that. We've always consistently interacted with the agent. We asked the agent for ideas, for feedback, and the best way to do that is let the AI agent do its thing. You don't want to cage it. What I mean by that is embrace what it tells you, embrace its hallucinations. It might go into different directions. It might talk about a lot of things that aren't relevant if you're asking it to ideate, but embrace that. Because among one of those ideas, you're probably going to find an idea that's actually pretty good and that you actually might want to implement. So the AI might invent ideas and thoughts that you didn't ask for. Sure, it can hallucinate. But instead of viewing that as a redundancy, try and look at it as a creative suggestion. And this is very important when you're in the brainstorming phase, when you're still talking about your idea, you're still defining your idea. You haven't figured out everything that you want to do right now. Once you're in the building phase, once you know what you want to build, then you can go all in with just straight instructions. When you're ideating, you should embrace the AI's ideas. So sure, a lot of those ideas won't be ideas that you will actually use, but some of its ideas might take you places you never would have been able to go on your own. All right, so that's one tip that I think you guys should follow. The next tip is use AI to prompt AI. So free AI tools like Gemini and ChatGPT are tools that we all use every single day, right? So when we're prompting a paid tool like Cursor and we're using paid models like Cursor Grok 4.5, what we can do is we can use these free tools to make our prompts shorter. And we already discussed why shorter prompts are good, right? Earlier on the course, we were talking about how shorter prompts lead to less token wastage. And so what you want to do is reduce filler words, reduce unnecessary words in your prompts. And instead of doing that manually, which might take a lot of time and might burn you out, you can do that using these AI tools. You can put your prompt into ChatGPT or Gemini and say, hey, I want you to remove redundancies, don't change the meaning, don't change the intent, keep all of the details, but remove as many unnecessary words as you can. And again, as you do this for every single prompt, eventually you'll find out that these small costs accrue, and eventually you will have saved a lot of money. Now, one more thing is negative authority. So it's very easy and very efficient to tell the agent what you don't want it to do rather than what you want it to do. So sometimes if I want the agent to never use HTML, I can say never use HTML or do not use CSS. Stay away from this file. And these instructions are very direct, so the agent really understands them. It's not really easy to misunderstand these commands. It's very, very simple and very, very straightforward. So agents understand commands like these very nicely. So negative authority works really good when you're instructing an agent. Now, I also have tips for you guys on debugging with Cursor, right? So these are very simple tips, but they're really going to help you if you pay attention. The first is using debug mode, right? So debug mode wasn't always around. Prior to debug mode, what we would do is we would just take the error that we were facing and we would put it into the agent manually, and then the AI agent would fix it for us. And even then, it was very effective. In my 1.5 years of building with Cursor, I have never faced an issue, error, or bug that AI could not fix on its own. All right? And now Cursor has debug mode specifically for those errors, and it is very difficult to find an error that cannot be solved in debug mode. And I say that with confidence. There are very few errors in software that debug mode cannot solve. Debug mode is surprisingly good.
So whenever you're facing an issue, switch over to debug mode. So right here in Cursor, if you're facing an error, just switch to debug mode, because debug mode pinpoints the root cause of an issue by generating hypotheses and gathering runtime evidence. So you're facing an issue, no problem. You switch over to debug mode and you troubleshoot your issue, and you just explain the issue as deeply as you can in debug mode, add as many details, screenshots of the issue, and as many possibilities as you can, and then let the agent take it from there. All right, that's pretty much it for solving errors with debug mode, and most issues that you're going to face will be solved this way. Now, another tip is if one model gets stuck on a certain problem and it's spending too much time, just ask a different model, because if GPT 5.6 can't fix an error, then maybe Fable 5 can. If Composer 2.5 can solve a problem, then maybe Grok 4.5 can, right? So maybe one model is not as good at fixing a particular problem as another model, or maybe another model might be able to capture something that one model couldn't. So switch between models if it takes too much time, and one of those models is definitely going to solve the problem.
My next tip for debugging is don't drain tokens. When an agent is stuck on a problem, there's probably something wrong in its context, and it's probably stuck doing the same thing over and over again. And this drains tokens very quickly. So if you realize that an agent is stuck on a problem and it's not making any progress, pause the agent. Tell it to take a step back. Tell it to look at the problem from first principles and try new approaches. Because it's probably just doing the same thing over and over again on a problem, and that is not working. So tell that to it very clearly. Be very explicit and say, this is not working. You have been trying this for the past 20 minutes. Stop trying this approach. Think of something new. And that's when it's going to take that approach and it's going to try something new. Sometimes you have to be very hard. You have to force it to stop repeating its same approach and try a new approach. Maybe tell it to go and search Stack Overflow for solutions to similar errors. Tell it to search the web if any other developers have searched previous errors. Platforms like Stack Overflow have had their usage drop drastically, but there's so much gold and valuable information when it comes to errors and solving those issues from the past 15 years from the development community. So these AI agents can utilize that. Tell them to scour Stack Overflow and all of these indexes and forums, and they might find the solution there. So that's one thing. And you also might want to increase the effort levels. So if I head over to Cursor right over here, this is Grok 4.5 medium. Right, but I can click on edit here and I can turn the effort to high. All right, so Cursor Grok 4.5 high is obviously going to be a lot better at debugging compared to medium. And I can also turn on max mode. All right, so which will max out context windows and tool calls. So you can enable max mode and start using max mode as well. So these things will definitely help you. All right, guys, so now let me explain to you what multitasking is in Cursor. So I can select multitask right over here. And what multitask basically does is it uses a fleet of subagents to parallelize requests instead of adding them to a queue. So I've already told you what subagents are earlier on in the course. And by parallelize requests, it means that let's say I give 3 tasks to the AI. Now, instead of doing them one after another, one agent is going to do one task, another agent is going to do another task, and the third agent is going to do the third task. And they're going to do it all in parallel at the same time. So it's not one agent goes after the other doing different tasks. It's all of the agents working simultaneously on their own respective tasks. So that's what multitask mode is. So you can select multitask mode right here or right here. You can select multitask mode. And once you have multitask mode selected, now you're going to be able to coordinate parallel tasks in Cursor. So let's give Cursor a prompt to run 3 different tasks in parallel. So I'm going to say I want 3 agents working in parallel on these 3 different tasks, on these 3 different documents. One should write about the growth of Europe's economy. The second should write about koala bears. And the third should write about the impact of AI in finance. Give me all 3 documents ready. All right, and I'm going to hit enter. And what you're going to notice is it's going to spin up 3 agents working in parallel. So 3 parallel writing mission soldier, locking them in now. And you can see we have 3 agents set up in parallel. You can see they're thinking, working, creating, writing, all in parallel. So they're doing this all at the same time. Each agent is working on its own task. All right, so the 3 writers are already in the field working in parallel. Stand by. When they report in, you'll get all 3 documents ready for inspection. So 3 agents are working currently. We have these 3 agents working. So AI in Finance is delivering the finished briefing. So finished AI in Finance document, all right. The other 2 writers are still in the field. Europe economy growth has completed. The koala document is still underway. So the koala bears document is the last one. So you can see they were working in parallel, and now one by one, they're getting completed and served to us. All right, so let's just wait for the last document to be finished, and then we can review all of them. That's pretty much it for parallel agents and multitasking. You just give the agents commands and they work in parallel rather than one after another. But it's very efficient and very fun to use if you get the hang of it. When agentic engineering, if you have a lot of different tasks that need to get done, let's say you need to build a button, you need to build a backend, and you need to write certain documents, all 3 tasks, you can just hand them to agents in parallel and that'll get done. All right, and now all 3 are done, finished koala bears documents. So it's saying each is a standalone 1,000 to 1,150 word briefing. Europe covers post-war growth through Outlook, koalas cover biology through conservation, and AI in Finance covers use cases, benefits, risk regulation, and what next. So now I can click on each one of these files and I'll see the document. I'll see the document for each one of them. So this is for koala bears, this is for Europe's economy, and this is for the impact of AI in Finance. So that is the magic of parallel agents and multitasking in Cursor. One more thing that I think you guys would be super interested in knowing is that I've recorded this entire course on a Cursor Pro plan, like I mentioned at the start, but it's cost me less than $4 all the way up until now. We've built multiple applications, we've iterated on those applications, we've written documents, we've asked questions, we've done all of this work, and it has cost me less than $4. Now, in the last section of this course, I'm going to be talking about the economic opportunities that are available to people like me and you once we've mastered skills like agentic engineering with Cursor. In simpler words, I'm going to teach you how to make money with Cursor. So there is a huge gap in the market right now due to AI, and let me talk about that and break this down for you. So for the past 20 years, business owners, whether that's small business owners or large enterprises, have been paying billions and billions of dollars to traditional software developers around the world. And traditional software developers would build applications, systems, websites, automations, internal tools, CRM dashboards, and all sorts of software like that for these business owners. And in return, they built $1 trillion software industry. But now AI is causing massive tectonic shifts in the economy. And what we can do, people like me and you, can leverage that and step in here and capitalize on this. We can make a lot of money here. And the way we can do that is this software that traditional software developers earlier developed, in order to develop it, they would require CS degrees. They would require knowing dozens of programming languages. But now the barrier to entry is so low that people like me and you can develop that same level of software, the same quality, the same efficiency, and the same satisfaction for the client, but we can do it much faster and we can do it for much cheaper than what it would cost to hire a traditional software team. Because we have AI agents, we have tools like Cursor, and so we can automate that process and move much faster, and speed wins in an economy, especially in an economy that is changing so fast. So this reminds me of something that Kevin Systrom, the co-founder of Instagram, said, which is that you don't have to be the best or the first, you have to be dangerous, right? So what we can do here is we can step in very fast and we can look for clients, we can start switching over clients who are currently hiring traditional software developers and convince them to hire people like me and you, because we're going to do that same job for cheaper, we're going to do it quicker, and we can leverage that as a pitch to these small business owners and eventually large businesses as well. And people are doing this. AI automation and AI services, AI consulting, AI solutions have become billion-dollar industries, and they are only growing. So slowly, this pie that these guys are eating, it's slowly coming up to people like me and you. And you might be thinking, that sounds great in principle, but how do you actually apply this to real life and actually make money? Well, the answer is pretty simple. There's 2 types of lead generation, inbound lead generation and outbound lead generation. And when you get started, you have to start off with outbound lead generation, which means that you're the one reaching out to the client. So outbound lead generation is you're reaching out to the client saying, hey, I notice you don't have a website. Would you like me to build one for you? Or, hey, I notice you have a website, but you don't have a mobile app. Would you like me to develop one for you? That's outbound lead generation. And this usually starts with something like cold emailing or reaching out to local businesses. And in this, obviously, you're going to get a lot of rejection, so you have to be ready for that. You have to be persistent, and you have to do so much volume that eventually you start getting a lot of yeses, and those yeses convert into actual paying clients. So you just want to do so much volume that eventually you will succeed, because outbound lead generation just requires volume. There's no secret to it. It's just volume. And then as you get better and better at finding clients through outbound lead generation, you'll eventually start getting inbound leads, which means that clients will start reaching out to you. And this happens through referrals. So a local business owner that you reached out to referred you to his friend, and now his friend is reaching out to you. And gradually, as you keep doing good work and keep expanding, your inbound leads will get so high that you won't need to do outbound lead generation anymore, or you'll at least be able to slow down on outbound. So your goal is to maximize inbound lead generation. Now, a lot of people do not want to do outbound lead generation. It's too tiring for them, too time consuming. So in that case, what you can do is you can use these sites, Freelancer, Upwork, and Fiverr, where business owners will put down requirements that for applications that they need to be built. And this is a form of inbound lead generation for you, because the clients are going on these sites and they're saying, hey, we need you guys to build this for us. Who can build this for us? And then freelancers bid for those jobs, right? And then you send your resume, you send your past work, and you try to get those jobs. So this is a form of inbound lead generation where the clients put out their requirements and then you tell them if you can do it or not. So this is the quickest way to go to inbound lead generation. But if you really want to do this business long term, which a lot of people are doing and making a lot of money doing, you should start off with outbound lead generation, reaching out to businesses, cold emails, local businesses. Then eventually you start getting inbound leads organically. If you want, you can try out these freelance sites. I've done it myself earlier and it does work. You just have to be very consistent, showing up every single day and doing lots of volume. Thank you for watching this course. I hope I was able to provide value to you. If you have any questions or anything you want to learn in future videos, let me know in the comment section down below and I'll be sure to check that out and reply to it. Peace.